Hey everybody. Hey everybody, I'm really excited to have you here today. I'm going to be covering for you the single biggest hack or strategy that I have learned in my career, helping over 400 people overcome depression and anxiety. Very excited. If you guys don't know who I am or you're new to the online community, my name is Ty Hicks. I'm a mental health coach, founder of Mental Health Solutions and the SSS conditioning method. I was once suicidal, hospitalized, put into therapy, went through medication, all of that didn't really work for me. So I had to figure out a different way, and I learned how to retrain my brain. And now I use a conditioning-based process to help people overcome depression and anxiety. It's really fun stuff. So I want to share with you something that can really get you incredible results if you implement it. A lot of the things that I teach people are deceptively simple, because I'm a big believer that complexity is the enemy of human action. Very often when we're trying to improve our life, especially if we're trying to improve our mental health, if somebody gives us a really complicated, ornate strategy, it might sound really cool and fancy, but when it comes down to actually implementing it in our daily life, it's going to become pretty difficult. But sometimes people are looking for that big, giant, juicy idea that they think will then make them feel totally, absolutely certain and will just crack open the whole thing that they need. And what I found is that that's not really how improving your mental health works. Improving your mental health is really about mastering some basic fundamental skills. If you really want to live a depression and anxiety-free life, it's very possible, but there are key things that you have to master. And let me give you a simple example of this. Many of you guys maybe grew up and you learned a skill, like you might have learned an instrument, or you might have played a sport, or if you just think of anything that you've ever learned how to do that feels very automatic to you now, but it felt really difficult to you at the beginning. Well, the thing is, with most things like that, there are really only a couple fundamentals that you have to get really good at. So for instance, like guitar. I don't play guitar so much. I played bass back in the day, but you got to know your chords, you got to know your finger movements, right? You have to practice the fundamentals over and over and over. And somebody who does the basics and the fundamentals becomes really good. A better example would be Michael Jordan or Steph Curry, right? More contemporary basketball player. These guys simply have practiced twice as much as the average NBA player. That's why they're exceptional and why they were at the top of their field. They simply did the basics, practicing free throws, doing all the drills, but they did it twice as much. So it became so muscle memory for them that they didn't even have to think about it. And one of the key things I teach my clients is anybody, yes, anybody, can live a lifestyle where they are effectively depression and anxiety free. What I mean is that they don't feel sadness on a continual chronic basis. They don't feel worried on a continual chronic basis. All of us will feel sad or worried from time to time, but you can live a life without that cycle. In order to do that, though, you have to train the brain to do certain fundamental things. And that means you have to implement certain strategies to condition the brain to think the way that you want it to on a regular basis. And today I'm going to share with you one of those key things. It's probably the most important thing, honestly. I don't want to be melodramatic, but I do want you to really pay attention, because if you really pay attention to this and you don't just tune out and go, oh yeah, I think I've heard something similar to that, then you'll really understand. Because I can tell you, out of the over 400 people I've helped overcome depression and anxiety, this has been critical for every single one of them. This has also been critical for my own life, hugely, hugely, hugely. Okay, so here's what it is. There is one fatal habit that people make mentally. It's a pattern of thinking that their mind has gotten trained to do. And what they tend to do is they focus on what they do not want as opposed to what they do want. Okay, and there's lots of variations of this. So if you're taking any notes, I'll show you what the variations are. If you're taking notes, what I'd encourage you to do is have a left column, which represents what you don't want to do, and then the right column of what you need to practice doing instead. Okay, and let me walk through the common mental habits that people have, and you can identify which of these are ones that you do, and we'll see. Okay, but this is all under the premise of focusing on what you don't want. Another word to describe this would be focusing on what you fear. Okay, so let's talk about anxiety first. Anxiety can only be experienced when you focus on something you do not want to happen in the future. That's it. The only way your nervous system can create the feeling of anxiety is for you to go into your head and go, well, what if this bad thing happens? What would that feel like? What would that be like? What would happen? What would it do to my kids? What would it do to my partner? What would it do to my business? What would it do to my finances? Okay. That's what creates anxiety. For many people, it's imagining something's going to happen to their health. Like, oh, what if I have a heart attack? That would be like a health anxiety thing. Or what if I have this disease? Another example of health anxiety. Common anxiety patterns are like a phobia, for example, or agoraphobia would be, what if I crash into a car when I'm out driving? Or what if I'm out in public and somebody does something, bad to me? Okay. The absolute vast majority of anxiety patterns are imagining something bad is going to happen in the future. The only exception I can think of in my head would be social anxiety. But even that is still essentially the same thing, because you're still focused on what you fear or what you do not want, such as, what if they have a bad opinion of me, or what if they're going to reject me? Okay. So for any of you guys who are watching, I'd love to see if you can give me a like or something if this resonates with you. If that's a habit that you have, please let me know. Okay. Chances are, if you're feeling anxious, you're focused on something you fear. Depression can happen in the same way, but it's usually slightly different. When people are feeling depressed, what they tend to do is they spend a lot of time focusing on the past, and then they imagine a future that is very bleak. So again, they are imagining what they do not want, something that they fear. Okay. Stress is another common emotional reaction where, again, people are focused on what they do not want. Although with this, it's usually they're focused on all of the things they think they have to do. So they're focused on a lot of to-dos is a big one. Or they're focused on some conversation that they don't want to have, right? Or they're focused on, oh gosh, me and my partner have really not been getting along in the marriage. I really don't want to have a fight with them tonight. Okay, and that causes them stress. However, it's always the same. Health, anxiety, depression, sadness, any of these types of experiences stem from one key fundamental mental habit, which is focusing on what you fear. Now, so far, you guys might be listening and you might be going, okay, Ty, tell me something I don't know. All right, like I know I focus on what I fear. That doesn't sound exactly like rocket science, but here is where it gets interesting. Here's where it gets interesting. We tend to think that our emotions happen to us. So people will, for instance, even the terminology that we've come to use, like anxiety attack, panic attack, right? We use these labels to describe these extreme emotional states as if it's happening to us. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're at the very beginning of your journey, that's very much how it feels. So I'm not making you wrong for feeling that way. Okay. I totally get that that's how it feels. It feels like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I feel depressed, or all of a sudden I feel anxious. Where the hell did this come from? Let me give you a different metaphor, and if you really pay attention, this will change how you look at your mental health forever. Okay. The metaphor that I have found is a lot more beneficial is, imagine you're driving. Okay. And you guys have all had this experience where you're driving, you're headed towards a destination, and then you zone out. And you zone out and you're thinking about all sorts of other things. And then you get to the destination, and then you go, oh my gosh, I don't even remember driving myself here. How did I get here? Okay. Any of you guys ever had that experience? Okay. Let me know. If you've had that experience, that is very much what it's like when these emotions are taking hold for you. Okay. What happens is you are getting to an emotional destination that you didn't realize you were taking yourself into, because you don't yet have the skills to understand that that's where you were going. You didn't recognize the little mental habits that are actually within your control to learn how to control, I should say. You can learn how to control them, that are taking you into feelings like anxiety, depression, and so on. Okay. So for instance, if I zone out when I'm driving and I get to my end destination and I don't remember driving myself there, wouldn't it be silly for me to say, who drove me here? Like, how did my car miraculously get me here? I don't know how I got here. Yes, of course I know how I got there. I drove myself there, but I unconsciously drove myself there. That's what's key. I was not aware that I was driving myself there. Okay. And this is the big difference is you're taking yourself into an emotional state that you don't realize you're taking yourself into. You are doing it. You are doing it unconsciously, however. So the way that you get control of your mental health is you take what is previously unconscious and you make it conscious. You cannot change something that you are unaware of. And what I'm going to spend the remainder of this video explaining to you is the first fundamental mental habit that you have to become aware of and then shift and train. And that is the power of focus. Okay, so in your notes, here's what you want to remember. There are 3 key things that cause emotional states. I'm just going to be focusing on the first one in this video, which is focus. Okay, what you focus on, you feel. Let me give you a simple illustration. Right now, I want you to focus on your temperature, okay? Whether you feel hot or cold or just right. Okay, just notice that for a second. Focus on that. Okay, now as you focus on that, you will notice, I guess I feel a little cold, or I guess I feel a little warm. But I bet probably 15 seconds before I asked you that question, you were not aware of your temperature. You are not consciously aware of, oh, I'm really cold or I'm really hot. Chances are very low that that was the case. But once I brought your attention to it, you felt something, didn't you? So as you focused and you changed what you focused on, it changed how you felt. Let me give you another example. Focus for a moment on your posture, okay? Whether you are comfortable right now, whether you feel comfortable where you're sitting, okay? Or if there's any discomfort. Okay. Now, do you notice that as you search for discomfort, chances are you probably found some level of discomfort somewhere, whether your leg or your arm or your body, right? Some tiny little discomfort you probably just felt. You probably noticed. And so, again, you changed your focus. It changed how you felt. Now, let me give you 2 final examples, and then I'll teach you the core bit that you need to know. I want you to think now for a moment of one of your favorite memories of the past. Like one of your favorite places to visit that you've ever been to. Maybe a place you went to vacation, maybe a place you went to summer camp. Okay, I just want you to think about that for a second. Like kind of bring an image to mind or just kind of imagine what it was like when you were there and how you felt when you were there. Okay. Now, do you notice that as you focus on that, you feel something different? Maybe you feel a little nostalgia. Maybe you feel like you can remember the warmth of the sun or the breeze on your skin. Maybe you feel a sense of happiness or a sense of peace, or maybe you feel a sense of longing and desire, like, oh, I'd really love to go there. But I'm sure that as you focused on that, you changed how you felt. Okay. And then one final example, I want you to focus now on something that you fear. Okay, something that you've been worried about, something you worry is going to happen in the near future. Okay, now do you notice that as soon as you focus on what you are afraid of, what you fear, it changes how you feel immediately, right? When you focus on something from the past that you appreciated, you feel different. You may not feel totally happy, right? But you do start to move in the direction of happiness or the direction of peace of mind. Okay. Some of you might find it difficult to do this at first because your mind really wants to stay on the negative, and that's okay. That's just how your mind is trained right now. But even with the little examples I've given you, what I want you to remember is focus equals feeling. Okay. People who are feeling anxious on a repetitive basis, okay, what we call anxiety with a capital A, right, like an anxiety disorder or an anxiety illness, is really nothing more than our mind continuously, habitually, over and over, imagining something that we fear. But as I just showed you in the past 2 minutes, you have the ability to change where you focus. Because I bet you were able to focus on what your temperature was like, what your posture was like. You probably were able to remember a time or a place or a setting from the past that you enjoyed. Okay. Now the trick is making sure that your mind can stay focused on the positive. And that comes about through conditioning. But what's important to understand how to condition your mind is you first have to know that it is within your power to shift your focus at any given time. Yes, in the early days, it does require some willpower, but it is within your control. And you just reaffirming to yourself, wait a minute, I can choose where I focus. It's kind of like if I return to the driving example, right? If I'm driving and I zone out and I take a left turn because I'm just conditioned to turn left because that's always the way I go to work, but I really need to go right. I might feel the impulse to turn left, but I can stop and pause and go, no, hold on, wait a minute. I need to go right this time, right? I can exert my willpower to shift direction, to shift my focus. And that's what you can do. So as your mind starts to go towards what you fear, what you have to start to do is exert some willpower and say, no, I'm not going to focus on what I fear. I'm going to focus over here. Okay, I'm going to focus on what I want. Okay, and now the title of this video is the single greatest mental health hack I know. And here's what it is in a nutshell. Focus on what you do want, not what you don't want. Okay, I'm gonna walk through a lot of specific examples because this is deceptively simple, as in you're gonna hear this and go, oh, Ty, that's so basic and that's so simple. But I guarantee you, you're doing this at levels in your daily life that you are not even aware of. And let me help you understand a few of those, if I may. I don't know for sure your situation, but I've worked with a lot of people on these issues and I know the kind of mental habits that come about. So let's walk through some examples. Here's a very simple example. Many of you have the experience of waking up in the morning and immediately feeling stressed or anxious. I'd love to see some likes or some comments if that's you, okay? You tend to probably wake up and immediately feel a sense of dread or worry or anxiety, whatever word you would use, right? But an icky feeling about the day. What is happening for you probably is one of two types of things. You are either one, focusing on what you don't want to have happen later that day. So there's a specific thing you are afraid of, like, oh gosh, what if I go out and I get anxious and I have an anxiety attack? Or gosh, what if I go have this argument with my boss again? Okay, so it could be that, or you're focused on things that you, quote, have to do. You're focused on things that you believe are like chores, hindrances, they're bothersome, right? They're things that you don't want to do, but you feel like you have to do. So you focus again on what you don't want. When you focus on what you don't want, you're going to feel something negative in the range of stressed to like suicidal, okay? Something in that area. Another example would be your relationship. Many of you guys I know, because a lot of my clients are dealing with relationship stresses or relationship issues. If you are dealing with a relationship stressor, I would bet any amount of money that you are frequently, when you think about that person that you are in relationship to, you think about what you dislike about that person. You focus on what bothers you about that person. You focus on unmet expectations of that person, or you focus on, oh gosh, what if we get a divorce and then the kids are going to get upset? And you go down this path of what you don't want to have happen. Okay. And that can become a big problem because as you focus on that, here's the metaphor I'll give you. Another driving metaphor. Imagine you're driving down a road, okay, and your car gets into a spin. And now all of a sudden you're headed towards a tree. And oh gosh, I'm headed towards that tree. I don't want to hit that tree, right? What most people do is they focus on the tree. They stare right at the tree that they don't want to hit. But studies have been done on this, on race car drivers and all sorts of people. And what they found is we tend to go where we focus. So when you focus on the tree that you, don't want to hit, your brain and your body become aligned and you hit the thing. So this is why people who get divorces, for example, okay, are usually, oh, bless me, excuse me. Okay, so when people get divorces, they tend to be worried and focused on, oh gosh, what if we get separated and what if we get divorced or what if we're going to be unhappy for another 10 years? They keep focusing on what they don't want to have happen over and over and over again. And when they get that focus, they get a feeling in their body, they get stressed out, they get worried, they get reactive, they get angry. And when you're in that emotional state that is fueled by what you focus on, you then create certain behaviors that help you or hurt you. So here's what you'd want to write in your notes. Focus equals emotion. Well, focus is one of three things that creates emotion, but for today's video, it's what we're talking about. Focus equals emotion, equals behavior, equals results. So if I focus constantly on, oh my gosh, what my wife and I are arguing, and what if we do this, and what if it goes badly? That's going to create a feeling in my body of stress, worry, anxiety. When I'm in that state and I then go and talk to her, for example, totally hypothetical, right? If I do that, what's going to happen is I'm going to get reactive. I'm going to be more sensitive. I'm going to take offense more easily. I'm going to judge her. I'm going to do all those nasty things that we all have done in relationships. Those actions are going to create a particular result in the relationship that's going to diminish the relationship. So focus equals emotion equals behavior equals result equals destiny. Okay, where we ultimately head. If I do that cycle on a continual basis over and over and over and over again, the relationship deteriorates. Okay, let me walk you through another example. Let's talk about making money, finances. Okay, this is a big pattern that people have. They focus on what they fear. So they focus on, oh gosh, I got this bill to pay and I got that bill to pay. And what if I run out of money, or what if we lose the house? And I mean, I've not been doing so good at work. And if I get laid off, that's really going to be a problem. So they focus on that. And then again, creates a certain emotion: stressed out, uptight, worried, anxious, fearful. Now, do you think that an anxious, fearful, emotional state is the emotional state that we want to be making our financial decisions from? No. What we then tend to do is we make stupid decisions. We overspend, we undersave, right? When we're fearful we're going to lose our job, we start showing up in a stressed out, worried, anxious way at work, and then our work performance dips, and then we make it more likely that we get fired, right? So again, focus equals emotion, emotion equals behavior, behavior equals result, stacking results equals destiny, okay? So now let's talk about the alternative. Let me explain to you what has to happen instead, okay? What I have found is the simplest, best way to improve your mental health. As I said earlier, I'm going to give you some more tactile examples, is to focus on what you do want, okay? So quickly, let me give you one final distinction on what not to do, and then I'll tell you what you can do instead. I use this example of purple elephants, okay? This is how I teach it to my clients. How many of you guys have ever had the experience where maybe you're feeling anxious or stressed, you're worried about something? Like, I'll use a health anxiety example. Let's say you're worried that, your heart's beating too fast and you're going to have a heart attack or something, right? And then, or whatever it is. And you get in your head and you go, it's okay, don't panic, don't freak out, don't make a scene. And you talk to yourself like that. Any of you guys ever do that, where you tell yourself, like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, right? And you try to calm yourself down. Your intention is to calm yourself down. Okay, the problem with that is that's like telling yourself, don't think about a purple elephant. In fact, I want you guys to all try that right now. No matter what you do, do not think about a purple elephant right now. Don't do it. Do not, under any circumstances, think about a purple elephant. Okay, and if a purple elephant has come to mind for you, I want you to now, right now, get rid of the thought of a purple elephant. Do not think about it anymore. And try really, really, really hard to not think about that purple elephant. Okay, now, as you're probably realizing, the more you try to not think about what you don't want to think about, the more you think about it. Because this is how our nervous system works. The way the nervous system works is it has to, first of all, think about an item in order to negate that item, right? We have to bring it to our awareness and then go, nope, I don't want that. So the problem with that is when you're telling yourself, don't panic, don't freak out, what you're really doing is you're telling yourself, panic, freak out, because it's bringing it back to mind over and over and over again, okay? There's a psychological term for this called suggestion or auto-suggestion. It's when you suggest something to the mind again and again and again, and it becomes focal, it becomes what you feel, right? And many of you guys are doing this for yourself. So when you say to yourself, like, oh, I don't want to get a divorce, or, gosh, my kid hates me, I don't know why I can't get through to my kid. What you're doing is you're focusing on a purple elephant. You're bringing that to be more focal. It's like staring at the tree. So you end up hitting the tree. You end up getting closer to the tree. So what is the antidote to this? Let me tell you. The antidote to it is to not focus on the tree. Actually, I need to choose my words more carefully. The antidote is not to not focus on the tree. The antidote is to focus on where you want to go, because choosing to not focus on the tree makes it more focal, right? So what we want to do is focus on what we do want. Let me give you some examples of this. Okay, and these are all common scenarios I run into with clients all the time. So rather than focusing on what will happen if I can't pay my bills, a better question to ask yourself would be, how could I make a little bit more money this month? Okay. Or instead of why can't I get through to my son or daughter, what you could ask yourself instead would be, what could I do to get through to my son or daughter? Instead of saying, how do I stop feeling so anxious? You'd want to move your focus into, what could I do to feel a little more joy today? Do you notice how those feel different? Like, try this out for a second. Like, just ask this to yourself in your mind. How can I stop feeling so stressed? Just say that to yourself inside your mind real quick. How can I stop feeling so stressed? Now, I don't know about you, but when I ask myself that question, it kind of makes me stressed. It kind of makes me tense, right? It kind of brings that feeling of stress up. Now try this instead. What could I do to enjoy my day a little bit more? Try that one to yourself. What could I do to enjoy my day a little bit more? Now I feel a little better, right? A couple ideas come to mind, even if they're simple, tiny little ideas. Now your mind might have a tough time staying there. It might then want to go right back to what you dislike because you're trained to look at the tree right now. That's okay. That's why we train, right? Mental health is not like a one-stop thing. It's a training process. And that's what, if you really want to have exceptional mental health long-term, be prepared for training, and that's okay. So one tool you can use that will help you tremendously is questions. Questions lead to focus. Okay? The reason why we tend to focus on negative things all the time is we keep asking ourselves negative questions. Why can't I do this? Why won't they do this? What if this bad thing happens? Okay, those are some common examples. What you can instead do is start to ask yourself a new question that causes your mind to go searching for something else. So how can I make some more money? How can I improve the marriage? How can I get closer to my partner? How can I improve my business? How could I level up my career, right? What do I really want for my day? What do I really want for my week? One of my favorite tools that I teach my clients, I developed a day planner. We call it the Personal Freedom Day Planner. And one of the key questions that we use is, what are the outcomes I want out of my day, right? Now, notice how that feels. Try this out real quick. Ask yourself, well, I'll give you the bad one first and then leave you with the positive one. So start with the bad one, which is, what do I have to do? Think about that. Think about, what do I have to do in the next 24 hours? And notice how you feel. Probably pretty stressed. Now, instead, focus on, what is an outcome I want in the next 24 hours? What is something that I really want for my life? Maybe it's, I want to have a really nice experience with my partner tonight. Maybe it's, I want to watch one of my favorite movies this evening. Maybe it's, I want to work on my finances and reduce my spending type thing. But you notice that as you focus on an outcome that you want, you start to feel better. Okay. So I'm not saying this is easy. It's kind of like push-ups, right? Push-ups may not be easy to you if you're not used to them. But if your goal is to build muscles and be stronger and be able to live a life where you are less prone to injury, then you might need to do some push-ups, right? And it's okay that you might suck at them for a little while. It's okay to suck at first, okay? But when you're building a mental and emotional fitness, you have to start to train the brain. When I was suicidal and really depressed way back in the day, it was not automatic for me to think this way. It was not positive. I slowly had to chip away at it day by day by day. That's why when, with our clients, we do a 90-day conditioning process. It takes some time to master this, okay? But if you are feeling stressed out or anxious in any area of your life, chances are you are probably focused on what you do not want. And what you can do to start to improve that process is you want to ask yourself a new question and go, okay, what do I want? And then you want to head towards that, right? Instead of staring at the tree and heading towards the tree, look in the direction you do want to go. And by the way, if you're pulling yourself out of a spin when you're driving, it doesn't mean that the tree isn't there. It doesn't mean that You have to ignore that you're afraid. It doesn't mean you have to like delude yourself and say, well, yeah, I mean, I am afraid that this thing might happen. It's okay that there's a tree there, but don't stare at the tree. That's the whole point. Don't continuously refocus on the tree. Instead, you want to focus instead on, this is the outcome I want. Yes, I'm afraid, but this is the outcome I want. Okay. I'll give you one example from my personal life. My wife, this last year, unfortunately, she got a diagnosis of breast cancer at a young age. Totally threw us for a loop, right? So we felt like we were in a spin. So the car of our life was in a spin. We were going along nice and cool, and then she gets this diagnosis. We're like, holy cow. So where does our brain want to go, right? On what we fear, the tree. What I told her on that very first day is I said, listen, honey, we have to make sure that we keep ourselves focused on the outcome we want, which is you getting healthy. And so that's what we have continuously had to bring our focus to. The tree has been there the whole time. And sometimes we've glanced at the tree and gone, oh crap, maybe that's going to happen. Or what if this happens? Or what about the medical bills and all those things? But we've had to continuously pull our focus to, no, we're focused on getting you healthy, making sure the bills are paid for, making sure we put this behind us. And because we put our focus there, we've stayed in a more emotionally resourceful place the majority of the time. So even when you're dealing with a crisis, this is really important too, okay? But it applies to all of the 6 areas of life mastery: your career, your finances, your health, your mental health, your relationships, and then also your time and your productivity. Any one of those 6 areas that you feel is not going how you want it to go right now, chances are you're focused on what you don't want instead of what you do want. Okay, so start to work on this. Now, if you want something more tangible, I just recently published an ebook. It's totally free. We make 0 money off of this. It's just a tool I want you to have. It's called the 15-minute daily habit to train your brain to think positively. So if you're looking for something kind of tactile that you can use on a regular basis, just let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to get you a link over to it. You can download it for free. But it's something I've tested out myself. It's worked great for my clients. It's worked great for me, and it'll work well for you if you use it, I'm sure. I'm positive, okay? So anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. I know I went a little long on this one, but it's so important. It's so key. It's one of those basics that people go, oh, yeah, Ty, yep, no, tell me something I don't know. And they don't practice it. If all you ever did was to just continuously practice bringing your focus back to what you do want, how to get what you do want, then you would be amazed at how dramatically you improve your mental health. So take this, use this, hope it's helpful. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. And if you'd like that ebook, we're happy to get that over to you. And then one last thing, I might as well just let you guys know, if you guys feel like you're in an urge and a hurry to get your mental health really where you want it to go, we take on a limited number of clients every month. But I do a free call with anybody who wants one, just so I can kind of assess your situation, see if it's something that you can turn around and improve. Totally happy to talk with you and see if it maybe is a good fit for you. If you'd like a link to be able to book an appointment, just go ahead and again, let us know in the comments, and we're happy to do that. But you really, really deserve to have tremendous mental health. You do, and you can have it. You absolutely can have it. There's no reason why you have to live a life where you feel depressed and anxious, but no one is going to give you a depression and anxiety free life. You have to reach out and grab it. You've got to learn the skills and you've got to implement it. Okay. So I hope this helps you. Congratulations for showing up and prioritizing your mental health, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys. See ya.